we bring in the one and only Mike Griffith joining us. Mike, thank you very much. Always great to see you. So everybody's voice has been heard. Let's hear yours on the big showdown.
Yeah, I don't know what more I can really add, Paul. I mean, it's pretty clear these are programs that are entering in, both hoping for the arrow to be pointed up, but only one can emerge that way. I think this could be an SEC championship play-in game, championship game, play-in game. I mean, when you look at the path that both of these teams have in front of them and the momentum, good or bad, that comes out of a game like this, I expect to see the winner of this game in the SEC championship game and the loser out. Now, as far as playoff implications, there's 12 teams. You can take that a lot of different ways, but, two very different approaches. Kalen DeBoer is wrapping his arms around the big game environment. He can't wait for President Trump and all these other people to be there, all these VIPs, and talking about how much excitement, what a great Saturday is going to be, and just how much confidence he exudes. I imagine the Alabama players probably have their touchdown dances down by now. But at Georgia, I can tell you, it has been lunch pail and hard hat every day. Stone faces, don't care that game day's there, not paying attention to the Nick Saban storyline. I mean, Georgia is feeling it. Backs against the wall. Kentucky pressed them hard on the road 2 weeks ago. These guys have to look in each other's eyes and wonder if they're the Georgia team that can get that win in Tuscaloosa that's been so elusive. I guess what? Matthew Stafford was the quarterback at Georgia last time that the Bulldogs won there.
Yeah, that was 2007 in overtime, and it was a considerably long time ago. So, Mike, of all the things that have been said this week, I mean, they are just endless, as you know. Is there any particular part of this game that you think is the most important?
Quarterbacks. I mean, I'm grasping at the obvious here, but all things being, look, both teams have fantastic playmakers. I mean, Ryan Williams, I heard he's only 17 years old, and of course Trevor Etienne. Look, he didn't come from Florida to lose it. He lost enough down there under Billy Napier, and being relegated to second string when everybody knew he was the best Florida running back, and so he came up here to win a championship, and he helped carry Georgia that last win. He's hungry, right? But Carson Beck has to start playing like a first-round quarterback, and Jalen Milroe, has to control his emotions and keep his plays positive where the right band is playing. So the question for me is, which quarterback is going to show more poise? Milroe can do so much with his feet. It's not just that bazooka arm and the deep passes. This is a guy that even when the play breaks down, he can hurt you. So you got to stop him for the 4-second on schedule play that's drawn up. And then you got another 4 seconds where Milroe has the ability to make something happen. Now, what's changed since last year? Georgia's linebackers have grown up a little bit. I don't think you're going to see a bust on 1st and 20 like you did last year from the Georgia 28 to give Alabama that touchdown. So it's going to be an interesting matchup of styles, of attitudes, and certainly a young first-year coach versus a 9-year veteran who's trying to stay on top of the SEC.
Talking to Mike Griffith here from DawgNation. Mike, I want to get away from that game for a minute because there were some other things going on this week in the SEC. And yesterday, Lane Kiffin seemed to be beefing with Hugh Freeze.
I asked an innocent question. I had asked Coach Freeze about NIL, and he complimented Ole Miss and Missouri for the job they did. So when Coach Kiffin came on the SEC teleconference, I asked him an NIL question and said, by the way, Coach Freeze complimented your NIL management. And he proceeded to go off on some tangent about how Freeze is trying to steal his staff. I don't remember asking that question, but okay. Lane Kiffin, are the waters getting a little hot for Lane in Oxford? Is he maybe starting to feel a little pressure, Paul? He's supposed to win these games, and he actually has another team capable of running with his guys on the other side of the ball this week, a Kentucky defense that Georgia struggled with. Could Lane Kiffin be feeling a little pressure in Oxford?
Yeah, so I want to dig in on that, and I'm appreciative of you asking real questions other than, hey, Coach. You're on that call every week. I'm not.
Yeah.
Thank goodness. So, what do you think is behind? I mean, this wasn't just playful Eli Drinkwitz banter. I mean, there was some real venom here. And listen, Mike, before you even answer, you know the backstory. These guys don't care for each other.
Well, why would they? Hugh Freeze coached there before Lane Kiffin, and Hugh took the job that Lane had told a lot of people he was going to take at Auburn before he backed out at the last minute. So of course there's animosity. I understand that, but what Lane Kiffin does so effectively is reads the room and goes with the wind. You want to talk about somebody that knows how to pile on? It's Lane Kiffin. And he knows that right now Hugh Freeze is not in a very good position publicly after the comments he made after the last game. So all that was Kiffin coming off the top rope, finding some arbitrary reason to pile on. If I'm an Auburn fan, I'd say, well, I'm glad he's trying to hire the Ole Miss coaches. They're doing a better job than the Auburn coaches. I'm glad he's trying to get players. I mean, what I find ironic about Coach Kiffin, and again, he's extremely entertaining and he has great value to the league, especially on X, or what was once known as Twitter. But he's one of the loudest critics against NIL and transfer rules, but like 4 of his players are transfers. So, I mean, actually Lane Kiffin you could make the argument, Paul, that no program and no coach has made more gains through the NIL than Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin. Now, Missouri's making a good case after they survived Vanderbilt. Let's see how that story turns out. But you could make that argument that Lane Kiffin has been the biggest winner in the transfer portal.
So Michael, let me move on to the next story, which singularly is Hugh Freeze. He has had a rough week, losing, of course, to Arkansas, and then all the things he said leading into that game, and all the things he said leading out. Help us understand what's going on with this guy.
It's make or break this weekend, Paul. It's going to go kaboom if Coach Freeze's false bravado about beating Arkansas, what do you say, 9 times again if they played him. I mean, this is a guy that's bowing up. This is a guy that's going to double down. This is a guy that believes in his resume and his coaching and thinks he can pull this Auburn locker room together and use that Jordan-Hare Stadium crowd and seemingly the advantages they get in there. I don't know if anybody's had a better home field advantage than Auburn over the years, and read into that what you want. He's got to win this game. Brent Venables is playing with house money. Look, Oklahoma knows they have a fantastic coach, but they're behind in their collective, and they don't have the talent that they need to have to compete with. They know that. The Oklahoma people know that this is a transition year. But for Hugh Freeze, he's got to win this game. You can't lose at home to Oklahoma, staring down the barrel of a trip to Georgia next week. This is a must-win for Auburn. Freeze is another guy backed into a corner, doubling down. The stakes are higher than ever in this league. I mean, this is a Shark Tank, Paul. Everywhere you turn, somebody's nipping at your heels.
And not only that, his former quarterback, Bo Wallace, went after him. I mean, just buried him. Said he wouldn't let his own son play for him. Cam Newton. I don't recommend Cam Newton's podcast, by the way. I mean, I'm not faint of heart, but man, I got an edge. I was playing it in the studio the other day, and even Randy turned white from all the cursing. I mean, Cam's got one phrase. It's 2 words that go together, and he loves to use that phrase. I mean.
Hey.
But so my point, and then Freeze tries to walk it back, saying, I love Bo, and nobody believed that. But you said kaboom. So let's play it for a second. Let's say they lose this game. They're a 2-point underdog. What do you think? What does that mean? Kaboom.
I think the drums start to beat, and Auburn starts to look at potentially changing coaches at some point, if not at the end of this year. Just asking themselves if this is the guy. I mean, Auburn took a chance. The Auburn family took a chance on Hugh Freeze. He doesn't have the sort of background that Auburn likes to bring in, and everybody knows that he's been through tough times like everyone else. His were just a little bit more public, and with that baggage comes a little bit higher expectation, right? Auburn was willing to take that chance on Hugh Freeze and take that public image hit because they believed that he was a winner, and now they're finding out that the juice might not be worth the squeeze. So it's up to Hugh Freeze to turn this thing around. And he's got to get a win over Oklahoma, and he's got to be competitive the rest of this year to show that this program is pointed in the right direction. Because if I'm a donor, sitting on millions of dollars and watching the stock market and the election out of one corner of my eye, I'm not so sure how much money I'm going to give if that's the guy that's still in charge, and this is the way he treats his players, and this is the results we're getting. So, I mean, this is a zero-sum game. Paul, these programs, it's only September, but there are a lot of programs at a crossroads. They better win right now or the season starts to go downhill. And like Kirby Smart pointed out, we're going to see more of this player attrition. We're going to see more of these players holding their teammates and their fans hostage for more money mid-season, or they're threatening to walk, or if they don't get enough snaps. If you're not on a winning team, it really becomes about you. So there is a lot at stake for a lot of football teams, even though it's still September.
Yeah, and the thing I think that makes your point even more pronounced, just assume that Auburn loses. We don't know, but it would be 3 losses with Georgia next week, Missouri after that, 2 top 5, 6 teams. A&M, I mean, here it is: Georgia, at Missouri, at Kentucky. I mean, those are 3 very, very losable games for a school that can't beat California and Arkansas. You got Vanderbilt, that could be a toss-up, and A&M and Alabama. I mean, Mike, you already said it, but we're talking about what we thought maybe a 7-5, 8-4 season, and you might want to reverse that.
Yeah, well, Hugh Freeze has talked himself, I guess, out of a lot of things and into a lot of things. And right now, he better win the room back because, as I said on X, he's lost the room, every room. I don't know anybody rooting for Hugh Freeze outside of his family and some very dedicated Auburn fans. I mean, he's put that black hat on pretty fast as the bad guy that throws players under the bus, and he's got to win that locker room back. And this is his last stand. I'm telling you, if Auburn doesn't find a way, this is his last stand. He loses that locker room, and once you lose the locker room, Paul, we've been doing this a long time. We see what happens. So Auburn in a very precarious position right now, very dangerous game. Now, Oklahoma, they left it all on the field, arms, legs, body parts. Tennessee went through there like a wrecking ball and destroyed that team. I don't know what they got left or, who's not limping on or off the field or who's even at quarterback anymore. Tennessee had their heads spinning around. So that's going to be somewhat of a beat up, depleted Oklahoma team. Are they going to be good enough to beat, Freeze's, I don't know, what would you say about his locker room? Fractured right now?
Easily, no doubt. Hey, Mike, forgot to ask you, who do you like in Georgia-Alabama game?
Yeah, I think Georgia's going to win, Paul. They've kind of, it's like playing a video game, right? And Kalen DeBoer's at the controls for the 4th time, just figuring out how Mario can jump up and hit that mushroom. And Kirby Smart's been playing this game for 9 years. This is just another day at the office for the Bulldogs. They've already been on the road in the SEC. They've already played under the lights. They've already had a heart-stopping moment or two against Kentucky. I mean, Alabama was up there, eating Swiss cheese at halftime, blowing away a watered-down Wisconsin team with a second-string quarterback and having some illusions that Barry Alvarez was on the sideline. And let me tell you, Alabama hasn't seen the physicality and speed outside of their own practices, and that's different than game days, that Georgia's going to bring. Those Georgia guys have not forgotten Jalen Milroe's comments from last year that they didn't want to play a 4-quarter game. I mean, you talk about fighting words. This is going to be a pretty pissed off Georgia team Saturday night.
Thank you, Mike. Always great to see you. Mike Griffith just really laying some wood to Lane Kiffin and then some lumber to Hugh Freeze. Thank you, Mike.